and the power, Spirit, draw near.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa, gathered here in the mystery and the power of being together in this particular hour. I offer a warm welcome and a special warm welcome to our guest this morning, Shelly Covert, spokesperson for the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. Familiar face to many of us, yeah. And today, Jordan Reznick, assistant professor of American Studies at Grinnell College, and more to come about that. So welcome, and I invite all of us, so welcome to the folks on Zoom as well. It's great to have you here. A shout out to those who are either always on Zoom or who are convalescing. So I want to say hi to Marilyn Winters and Connie Wright, who've been looking for, oh, Connie's here. Oh, Connie's here today. So to Marilyn, hello, and all those on Zoom. So I invite all of us to help nurture a sense of community by saying hello meaningfully to the people around us, noticing who might yet need our genuine welcome. So I invite you to take time to say hello. Once again, the room always feels different after that. So, for all the fellow introverts, thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. Our service this morning is held in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow. More about that to come. And it's rooted in our commitment as a community to help create a world in which all can thrive, truly all can thrive. Now, the risk in offering a land acknowledgement, as we do each Sunday, recognizing the people for whom this land was home for thousands of years and from whom this land was taken, the risk is that the words we say are just words, just performative. We offer the land acknowledgement every Sunday so that we'll remember, that's why we do it, what the meaning of those words ask of us. They're meant to inspire and inform our actions in this community, not just saying the words, but our actions in this community and beyond. Frank reminded me that in the history of offering the land acknowledgement here, that Shelly had very carefully crafted a land acknowledgement in conversation with elders from the tribe. And so that's what we started with. And we're very much not wanting to insert ourselves into that land acknowledgement, right? Oh, let's just make it what we want, right? So we held that very sacred. And then after a time, someone said, well, if we do the same words all the time, they might start to lose meaning for us. We might start to tune them out. So I went to Shelly and said, hey, how would you feel? Would it be okay if we actually changed the words and crafted new ones. And Shelly said, yeah, I'm actually getting kind of tired of those myself. And so as Frank pointed out, here's the piece, right? We're trying to be in ethical, respectful, right relationship. So we start with that, okay, we're just gonna hold two, but we can also get rigid about that. And it was the conversation, right? It was the relationship that moved that forward. So thanks for pointing that out for us, Frank. Our acknowledgement is offered this morning by Burnell Scott, a member of this congregation's Nisenan task force, which seeks to help all of us, to help this community be in as right a relationship as we can be with the Nisenan, and to learn and unlearn, and to grow, and then to act accordingly. That's where this service comes from. Burnell, I invite you to offer our land acknowledgement this morning.
Hi. With the symbol of these black oak acorns, we remind ourselves that we meet here on Nisenan land that was never ceded, never given up, that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, resilient beyond genocide and generations of erasure and exclusion from California's history, that the history of this land and its peoples continue to shape this community, including us, that we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people and to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition, that our own deepest well-being is bound to the tribe's well-being.
And another member of the Nisenan Task Force, and a member of pretty much everything over the years, leader of many of those things, Anita Wall-Tuttle, to offer our chalice lighting words.
Thank you. To be a Unitarian Universalist by Erica Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. We light our chalice for the journey, the ever unfolding journey, and each light that guides us along the path.
Thank you, Burnell and Anita. And we send a piece of this light with our youngest members who get to go to Kids Connection now. And with that, we'll sing the light and our youngest members on their way.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm Good morning. My name is Randy McKean, your worship associate for this morning's service. The theme for our October services is deep listening. So many of you know that I'm a musician. I think I say that every time I'm at a welcome here. One of my first acts of service for UUCM was performing here in a fundraising music concert on Mother's Day of 2003. At that event, organized by our then minister, Julie Kane, and UUCM co-founder Utah Phillips, I met local musicians Maggie McKaig and Luke Wilson, and I got to perform with Reverend Julie and Frank Lawrence, who, in addition to being an amazing tribal attorney, plays a mean guitar. The deep listening that occurred among us that day fostered connections that continue to the present. Frank and I played music together just last month, and I regularly perform with Maggie and Luke as part of the group Beaucoup Chapeau. But I have to confess, I'm actually not that good a listener. So when improvising music with others, often rather than listening and waiting for an appropriate moment to contribute, usually I'm continually playing, trying to shape what is happening. And similarly, and you may be one of these people like me, men, perhaps, when hearing a loved one's laments, you immediately offer solutions for the perceived problems before they're even done being expressed. And the more difficult or challenging the thoughts or feelings, the harder it is to refrain from jumping in to try and fix things. This morning's service takes these notions to the next level, challenging us to employ deep listening and deep attention to detail around things past, but still very present, important, and timely issues. So welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains. Let us listen to one another. Our opening words this morning will be offered by Eileen Hale, the chair of our UUCM Nisenan task force.
Being white, listening to Indigenous. Let yourself be earth, listening to rain. Make your mind welcoming soil. Let your surface be reservoir. Let the wetness land on you, accumulate, sit on you, puddling. Let it be slow in its sinking in, drop by steady drop. When the mind is parched, when the soil has forgotten how to sit in silence and receive the words of the rain, let it come to you. Let it land and settle and be absorbed. Give it time to sink in, to be received by the roots and particles that know what they're doing without words. Be earth, listening to rain.
Be earth, listening to rain. So with that really beautiful introduction, I invite you to take a breath, or two or three or four. Yet let each next breath be even more true, even more you, even more easy. It may help to unwind your body, to shift in a way that helps you feel most centered, at ease, present. And I invite you to notice what you are feeling today. What feelings are most present? Think subtleties. There are variations of hurt, variations of anger, variations of joy. What is it that you're feeling this morning? One of the reasons we do this relatively early in the service, usually, is so that what's come in with us doesn't block our listening, right? If we can just acknowledge it, doesn't change it, doesn't lift it necessarily, doesn't make it go away or do anything with it, but to acknowledge what's in us can help us be most present. So I would name you to call out or type into the chat some of the feelings that are resonant, present with you today. I'll repeat them so people can hear for the folks in the room. I'm going to name the joy that is especially present today as we celebrate the recent homeland return milestone. For those who don't know, this is the completion of escrow and the transfer of 232 acres and the site of the John Woolman School into the hands of CHIRP, the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project, which is the arm of the Nisenan, right, that helps support, and the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. What a tremendous joy and a whole lot of work, I know. What else is present in you this morning? Groundedness. Mystery. Excitement. From online, fear, adventure, new beginnings, earth, and love. What care. Gratitude, firewood. Redemption. Compassion. Awakening. Determination. Uncertainty. Renee? Cooler temperatures. Courage. Openness. Liberation. Curiosity. Justice. Perseverance. Empathy. From online, optimism. Great joy and pride. Petrichor last night. The sweetest smell I know, the after rain smell. Sick of being sick. Sometimes it's firewood, right, that we need to acknowledge so we can be present. With all of that and much more in mind and heart, I invite us to share in this ritual. If you're in the room, it's a chance to take a stone and place it in the bowl of water with all of that and more in mind and heart. It's part of what is intended to allow us to acknowledge and be present to ourselves and to each other. And if you're online, the equivalent of a stone is to type an O or a 0 in the chat. Just not saying anything in particular, but just acknowledging. Or online, you have the chance to actually type a little bit of what you're carrying today. I invite us to enter this time. Maybe for you, it helps to focus on your breathing. Maybe for you, there's a prayer you want to lift up. Maybe for you, it's the chance in the week to be still for once, for a moment. But I invite us to be present to ourselves and each other at the same time throughout, as the music graces our ears, as people move through the room, as we sit in our own silence. Carol, I would invite you to come up and join me, Carol Grant, and we'll... Just breathe. You may know that Indigenous Peoples Day is a reframing of what has previously been celebrated as Columbus Day. The idea arose in many different times and places, but took hold in recent form, took shape in earnest as a protest in 1992 when the United States was preparing to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Columbus's first voyage. when the city of Berkeley, California, declared an Indigenous Peoples Day. President Biden issued the first White House proclamation on the holiday just 3 years ago, in 2021, written with input from Indigenous activists. In this year's proclamation, the president writes, "On Indigenous Peoples Day, we recognize that it is hard work to heal the wrongs of the past and to change course and move forward. But together, nothing is beyond our capacity. I remain committed," he writes, "to writing a new and better chapter in our history. In pursuit of healing and changing course, and of writing a new and better chapter right here in our place, your Nisenan task force has invited Shelly Covert and Jordan Reznick into a conversation facilitated by UUCM member and legal representative for the tribe, right? Legal resource for the tribe, Frank Lawrence, in the hopes that their experiences and insights into the shared work of surfacing history and surfacing truth in ethical ways, in non-exploitative ways, might help us learn how to become better allies ourselves in what we do and in what we don't do. With that, I invite Frank to introduce our guests and the conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. Shelly Covert is an enrolled tribal member of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. She's been elected to their tribal council as the secretary of the tribal council. The tribal council has appointed her as the public spokesperson for the tribe. The tribe created a nonprofit that we refer to as CHIRP, California Heritage Indigenous Research Project. That's why we call it CHIRP. About 10 years ago. And Shelly's the executive director of that nonprofit also. And for tribes that are not federally recognized, they typically will create a nonprofit to have a legally cognizable entity that can get grants and own land and do things like that. So Shelly's with us. Jordan Reznick is assistant professor of American Studies at Grinnell College in Grinnell, Iowa, as Kevin mentioned. His current research examines how Indigenous ecological science shaped 19th century landscape photography in California. Applied locally, he's currently engaged in research related to the Malakoff Diggins State Park, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hydrological mines, I think, in the gold rush era, and also in connection with the tribe. He was a 2022-2023 Getty Research Institute National Endowment for the Humanities postdoctoral fellow at the Getty Research Institute and the recipient of the 2023 National Endowment for Humanities Award. He has a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Photography from the Tisch School of Arts at NYU, has a Master's in Fine Arts and Photography from California College of the Arts. He has a Master's in Visual and Critical Studies, also from Cal Arts, and he's got a PhD from my alma mater in Visual Studies, the University of California at Santa Cruz. So those are our conversants today. So I'll invite you up to have a seat, and we can go. So, Jordan, I thought first, just very briefly, Jordan's going to present a lecture on his research on Malakoff Diggins and the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe at 1 o'clock today. So you're all invited to stay for that. Can you just give us a little quick preview of that? Not the whole talk, just the kind of high points.
So for the past couple of years, I've been working with Shelly and members of the tribe, and very supported by Ember here, working on researching the photographs that were taken. There are some historic photographs taken of Malakoff Mine that were used in what's considered to be the first ever environmental law case in the United States. And so they're interesting to us from a photo historian kind of perspective. So I've been looking at those photographs and reconsidering them through a Nisenan legal perspective, what their legal perspective would be on those photographs. So that's what we'll be talking about.
So it seems to me, I've heard Jordan give a couple of lectures over the past couple of years on this and related topics, particularly down at Yosemite. It's sort of the intersection of photography, history, settler colonialism, indigenous rights. Is that a fair characterization? What would you add or take away from that?
Yeah, that's it. So I'm a historian of photography, colonialism, indigenous peoples. So my goal, I guess, to say is that I'm really interested in thinking about how we can learn how to see the land as indigenous land. And so the historic photographs of California from the 19th century, which are photographs we're all probably familiar with, like the Yosemite landscape photographs, the forests, the gold mines. We see these all of the time, and the historic photographs are reproduced all the time in California. And they have helped us to see California as an American space, but they actually picture this moment when California went from being in indigenous stewardship for thousands of years to being under colonial occupation by the United States. And so they picture histories of ecological science, of stewardship, and they also picture the aftermath of genocide. So I'm interested in recontextualizing those photographs so that we can understand them from an indigenous-centered perspective and learn to see the land as indigenous land.
So you're an academic.
Yes.
You're doing research. You're doing research, quote unquote, on the tribe in some respect. I want to get in. That's really what I'm hoping we can get into. What are some of the ethical issues that you're aware of in that space of academic research, quote unquote, on Indian tribes?
So indigenous peoples are the most studied peoples on Earth. And so Native peoples are right to be very wary of academics who come to do research, and I fully expect when I approach people and ask them, tell them who I am and what I'm doing, that people will say no, as they should, because they should be very suspicious of academics. And that history is long, so in the very founding of the field of anthropology, and began with a study of the Haudenosaunee, who I also worked with in Western New York. And that study so this is in the mid-19th century, was used to justify or to explain this theory of a hierarchy of races, and that, with white Christian people at the top of civilization and indigenous peoples at the bottom of civilization, right? So literally this, a researcher engaging for years with these nations, the whole goal was to prove that, they were below on an evolutionary ladder, that they were below white people. But what also is really important about that study that I think is still pertinent today is that the way that this is Lewis Henry Morgan, the way that Lewis Henry Morgan framed the Haudenosaunee people is that he was looking to think of them as pre-contact people, even though at that point they're in Western New York. They've been in contact with colonists for well over 100 years at this point. But he wanted to portray them as pre-contact people, as belonging to some kind of long ago past, as if they weren't modern people, right? Who are as much engaged in navigating modernity as anybody. And still to this day, Native people have to deal with people thinking that they should be wearing like loincloths and, like that they're not contemporary people like the rest of us, like they don't know how to use a can opener or something, so this is still going on, and it's, it's really sad sometimes when I talk to people and they're like, just make sure that people know that we're here. Like, that's literally all that they want my research to do, to just let people know that they even exist. Like, that is really heartbreaking, because that is like the ground, like we need to do better. So that is, I mean, I could go on, there's so many things, but I think that's a pertinent takeaway. Yeah.
I worked on a case in the 90s. Arizona State University researchers got an endorsement from the Havasupai tribe, which is in the Grand Canyon, and for a diabetes study. It's very difficult to get fresh food for that tribe, and I think they helicopter everything in. And the tribe encouraged its members to participate in this research study by giving blood samples. And a few years later, one of the tribal members found out that those blood samples had been passed around at ASU and was being used for research for which they did not consent. And so there was a series of lawsuits after that, and it really shone a bright light, I think, on this issue in a very visceral kind of way. Some of the research that was done with their blood samples undermined their creation stories, right? So the harm from that research was right to the core. And Shelly, we've talked about some experiences that you've had and the Nisenan tribe have had with researchers before Jordan and Megan Renoir. Can you tell us any of that?
Oh, sure. I just want to first say that how amazing it is. I don't even feel like when do I not talk? That I could just sit here and listen to you guys, because it's so amazing to not have to go, oh yeah, but that, stop it, now I'm gonna cry. Okay. Yes, I would say all of the academic fields, anthropology, linguistics, across the gamut, have, in our tribe, in our family, have been very, very, very negative. And since we're talking so freely today, I guess we can just talk about it all, right? They've used people in the past. I think this is changing with everything that's going on the planet right now, talking about, if we're going to use the word fair and equal, that these are the conversations that are at the heart that have to be remedied. I think violence and war and all those kind of stuff are the way end outcome of the core that we don't talk about. Is truly this inside stuff is, we're still playing a game where the rules are set up by one person and we haven't all been informed that the game is rigged, and so-and-so playing has all the cheats behind his back or her back or their back or whatever. But that the academics have always been seen as not friendly at all. And I know it's very true in my family, where interviews had been done where I learned all these great things, like when you're being extractive with somebody, that the academics would come in, spend lots and lots of time with mostly the old people, studying them, extracting from them, whether it's language or going into burials and digging people up and being like, oh, what do we got here? For the good of humanity, but at the cost of whoever is being studied at the moment. And those things, it's incredible, because with oral history and the passing down of information in our families, that remains. I look at the cultural pieces that are gone, that I only wish weren't shattered up and missing. And I can only try to guess from the knowledge that I have how to put it back together, and at least in my mind, before private property lines and all that tradition was erased. And, I have to be careful, because I do it myself. I did it to my grandma. I thought I'd do it to my mom. I'm like, everything she knows is absolutely my information as well, and I deserve to know. And so I'm very careful now that I'm this old in my life to make sure I'm not doing that to the tribal members and my own family members as well, because that's kind of what I've learned, I guess, is that it's okay to do all that. And it's really good if before they die that I get all this stuff written down for the good of our people. And that's really what there's a big permission that it's okay to go in and study and take bodies out of the ground and ask all the questions that are probably inappropriate, that, we'd be careful asking one another, yet some random academic person will come in and ask and write it all down. It's been very hard to see that one thread of culture that remains so strong is that, why are you talking to that lawyer? Why are you talking to that professor, photographer person? What are you getting? What are you giving away? It's been a source, even recently. I can't say it's gone, but it's dangerous.
Where have you found Nisenan cultural objects in the world? How far away from here?
Oh, everywhere. I mean,
Where?
we had to go to St. Petersburg in Russia. This is so
What do
funny.
they have of your tribes?
Well, it's so weird, Frank. I feel part of me is like, is it the inner just, mostly white, non-Nisenan American Shelly living in 2024, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so privileged. We get to go to Russia and see this sacred condor regalia that is major ceremonial. One person in the tribe was allowed to wear it. They did a dance. It's very sacred, very, very, you can't even wear it without all this status and stuff that goes with it. But they had collected, the Russian folks here during the fur trade era, I suppose, in early 1840s, have collected these items from the tribe here locally. And they have it on display, standing up. So, tribally, we believe that these items are alive, that they're consensual in their making, that they agree to be part of a ceremony. Just as much as I agree to be standing there, the regalia that you're wearing agrees to participate. And that's where the magic is. If it can't be any other way. So when you retire regalia or your baskets or things that are of this earth that are alive and consensual relationships, when you retire them, you're supposed to put them to rest, just like we put one another to rest at the end of life. And so there's regalia, not just in Russia, but in America as well, where these regalia are on, they're on it's like a, like
On a mannequin in a museum.
Right.
Or in a drawer in a museum.
Yeah, yes, but they're standing. That's the way we see it. I have cousins and family members who, baskets behind glass in a museum is not okay. That basket is alive. It's supposed to be sung to. It's supposed to be fed and watered, all these things. For you to be well, you've got to be in relationship with these things. So our things, and I'm sure this is for all tribes, and probably if we go back far enough, everybody on the planet at some point in time is a nature-based society. And if you find some goodies from way long ago, we better pick it up and put it on a shelf. And I fight my own internal, because I like to collect things. I have to be very careful because it's really not okay.
And this has happened with photographs. This has happened, in my experience, with videos, songs. Like every aspect is extracted without permission, without consent. It's not just the land that was taken, right? So Jordan, when in your sort of academic life and training, did you get any guidelines, guideposts for how to do this ethically, or is this something you figure out on your own, how you're going to approach it? Do they teach this stuff in school?
I'm sure they do. It was not a part of my training. I didn't study Native American and Indigenous studies, so I've kind of come into this through the, sideways in a way, because I started out studying race in photography, and I was interested in studying whiteness and then colonialism, and then that led me to start talking to Indigenous people. And so what I have been really fortunate to have Native people who have worked with me and been kind enough to let me know when I made mistakes. That's really that's how I've learned. And it's really, I feel really fortunate that people have done that for me, and that people talk to me, and that, I try. We all, we're all doing the best we can, and and so.
So
yeah,
what do you
so
think
that's
about when you
just-
come to Nevada City to do some
Yeah.
interviews with tribal members around Malakoff Diggins, this project? Like, what how do you approach that? What do you think about going into that interview or into that meeting?
I mean, I'm going into a conversation with people. I feel really grateful when anybody will talk to me.
You said you expect to hear a no up
I
front.
do, and I
you-
do hear no's, like people absolutely do that, and that's absolutely 100%. I'm like, I completely understand, like, I'll, moving on, like, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to mess with me, like, I totally get it. So that, but I'm really grateful, and really with Shelly, like, Shelly has really been my thought partner in this. Like, she's really shaped the research in a lot of ways. And so I think, it's funny because I also was not trained in oral history or like anthropology. I mean, like, I really am
That's
out
probably
of my...
why we talked to you.
I'm like...
Maybe
I
that's
don't know
where
what I'm supposed
all
to
these
do.
bad habits are coming from.
It's funny because it's like when on my recordings, like in oral history, you're supposed to be quiet as the interviewer, but I'm always like, yeah, and what about, and so the recordings are just, they're so messed up because I'm just always interjecting. I'm like, these are really useless for anybody else, but it's okay. But that's because, like, I don't know how to be in a conversation with somebody and not, give the, the empathetic noises, like, so, it's like, and I feel like it would be weird, right? If I was talking to you and you started talking and I was just like, yeah,
might be a little
we
awkward,
can't do
yeah.
that. So anyways, but
So,
yeah.
talk about the ownership, quote unquote, of the data or the results of the research, and who owns that, and how do you? I mean, is that something that you think of as collectively owned between you as a researcher and the tribe, or maybe you haven't thought about that issue? I don't know, but
No, I mean, there's so many dimensions to this, I think, and so there's like, so all of the interviews and actually all the research that I'm gathering in this case study that I'm working on with the Nisenan, everything will go to the tribe, like all of the recordings, all of the archival research, all of the secondary research, like there's just, when I'm done with this case study, it will all go to the tribe. I don't know that it'll happen that way with every tribe. Like all of our relationships are different. So every person that I talk to, it's a different relationship. Sometimes it's warmer and friendlier. Sometimes it's more like, this is just business. Okay, here we go. Like, it's human, right? So that's how it is. But then, so when I publish, that is copyrighted, it's in a journal or a book or whatever. So there's that. But then there's the other part, which is like when I publish images of Native people, even though traditionally you get permissions from the archive that holds those images to publish them, but I go to an extra length and I always get permission from the tribe or the person if they're still alive. So there's that, so there are all of these dimensions of just making sure that I'm being respectful as I go through the process.
So that, I'm going to interrupt you, that piece, what you just said has happened to the Nisenan tribe, where images of tribal people have been used, maybe with the consent of the copyright holder, but the tribe's not the copyright holder, right? So legally, it's fine, but I think where we're trying to go, it's not fine. And so what your generation, I think it's what I've seen is a generational thing. I think you, Megan Renoir, is a PhD candidate at Cambridge in history, and she's an intern working with the tribe in Chirp from the UK. She's from California originally. Both she and Jordan, I see, they're, I think, similar generations, and I see this going the extra piece, which is to go to the tribe or, to get permission.
Yeah, and then Shelly also, anybody that I interview also reads the chapter and they give approval, or offer changes. And so that.
Yeah, I think that's with working with you and Megan, there's such an incredible magic at the middle of the pairing, because I didn't go to college like that. I don't know what the rules are. What I've learned is just from being in the real world and bumping my face up against walls and being, I guess that's not, I have to ask permission of the Peabody to use the photos of our own ancestors and make sure we write it down right. And luckily the Peabody's been really lovely that way. But it's a very strange situation, because there's so little that remains that and my bar is so low of expectations. I'm used to dealing with just kind of poopy stuff a lot. And, and it's okay, because if anybody in the tribe is going to be the one to field all those things, it's me, because I can handle it and I find it very interesting and I collect data as we're talking. But what is most incredible with working with you guys is that you're going to find out way more if you're studying Nisenan something or other from talking to me and me talking to my elders and saying, I just met Jordan. He's awesome. Would you like to talk to him? Because that trust building within the tribe is absolute. If somebody is going to go get services, or if I'm going to introduce the tribal members to Frank or Ember or people really close in Chirp's work, if it's all on my skin, if I say, you really need to talk to Frank, you can trust Frank. That's all I have to say, because I don't do that ever. And so when I say it, I really mean it. So when you talk to me and you have curiosities, and I'm giving little pieces of things, when we're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's interesting. We're talking about photos. I've never talked to a photo historian before. This is amazing. And we start sharing back and forth. That's where the magic is. If we want research and data and to bring these subjects out of the archaic closets of whoever's closet it is, bringing this information out onto the planet in a new way, how can it be without the collaboration? And I know what it can be, because I've read academics, I've read the linguists, I've read the anthropological reports. I've stood next to archaeologists here locally at burial sites, and they're telling me what my family did, and they're wrong. And it's taken me a lot of years, because I would never say anything before, but I guess I'm old and cranky and tired. And so I'm like, somebody's making their career, has gone to school, has studied us, I guess, I don't know. And they're standing there telling me, and it's wrong. Like I've experienced it 3 times now with different archaeologists. And I guess before I wasn't up for arguing, and I didn't really know how to argue maybe, and felt like I might get in trouble somewhere along the way if I was like, who am I to stand up to any linguist who went to school, or an archaeologist, or somebody with the letters after their names? Like, those permissions were never there. And so I wish I could convey like those experiences my whole life. No expectations, showing up and just hoping people are nice. As we're standing beside a grave, because that's really bad luck. You're not supposed to be especially in like close proximity, and start talking about all this stuff. It's really bad luck. So I try to show up to protect something, just going, I hope we can get out of here soon. Like, this is feeling really weird. So that experience, and then paired with like talking with Frank, or talking with you or Megan and other people too. There have been a lot of folks lately that reach out for information and want to talk about different academic things. But there's nothing like opening a book and seeing something you're not prepared to see, or didn't think a photo exists. I only wish a photo was of whatever. And then you open and you see it, and it's like, it's so shocking. It's so shocking. And all the different echelons that I can only imagine that my ancestors went through. Like, my mom is a whole generation more connected to the pain and the actualness of the culture. Her parents, obviously, a whole nother generation closer to the sources of all these things. And I guess that's where the bar of like having no expectations, and I shouldn't be surprised to see that kind of stuff. And then hearing the academics' narration in their field notes. Like, they'll talk about whatever they're researching, and then they just like opinionate. And most of the opinionations, is that a word?
It is now, yeah.
Thank you. I'm looking for a word and having to rely on a linguist that might have written it down. And then he's talking about how weird the people look and how savage and devilish. And this one is like, these people are some of the ugliest people he'd ever seen. And he's dealt with a lot of tribes, but the Nisenan women had really amazing ankles. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with that, I'm making sure my daughter doesn't read this, but weird. But in such contrast is that being excited about talking to Jordan or Megan, being excited to share what bits and pieces we might have that might ping your brain. It's like ping, 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 and coming up with some kind of amazing outcome that can actually have some new relevance in life toward the future instead of just regurgitating them.
As the researcher
History
coming
lesson.
in, there's centering what I learned when I got my PhD or whatever, right? I don't have a PhD, but for example, bringing that, I think I know. I look at a grave with her and I tell her what I'm seeing, and as if that's the only truth. And she's standing there going, that's not what my mother told me, or that's not right. But not feeling confident to say it maybe at a one point in time.
Well, and being afraid. If
who-
I say that, interrupt somebody, pardon, like I just did, and say, if you're looking for bodies, we're a cremating society. That is a big thing. I would think that somebody who's making their career going around looking at local Nisenan graves would know.
And so coming at it with a perspective of not that I know what this is, and I'm going to tell you, as opposed to being open to hearing what knowledge the tribe has, the tribal person has. And also, it seems to me like centering where the benefit of this work is going, right? The extractive academic model is I come, I take from you, I publish, I get tenure, I get to go give papers in Oslo or something, right? And versus, the sense I get from Megan's work and from your work is you guys seem to always be thinking about how is this going to benefit the tribe? How is this going to impact the tribe? And coming from it's just a very different attitude.
Yeah, I want to also be transparent that I also am somebody who needs to get tenure, and I'm not 100% selfless in this situation. I'm trying to I'd like to have a savings account at some point. Academia is not what it used to be. I'm just saying. Okay, but I will say I have a goal, and I think this. Yeah. So I have a goal, and that goal is a narrative shift. I want people to be able to see the land that they live on as native land, because I think we need to understand that every single day when we wake up, we look around at what looks like our houses and our yards and our grocery stores and our roads, but they're all on native land everywhere that we are. And I think that perceptual shift is really important to supporting the current efforts of sovereignty, of land back, of land rematriation, of ecological justice. All of these things are really, really important. And so I think my work is in conversation with these very important political struggles, and I'm sure why we all are here today. And so that's what I feel like I'm always trying to get us, and why I think we're thought partners, because we share that value and we share that goal. And I think when we can come together and we're we all know that we're on the side of fighting colonization, and then here we are, we can be together in this. So.
Thank you both so much for being willing to do this, for flying halfway across the country.
Yeah,
and I want to just acknowledge the task force, Eileen, our chair, and also Burnell Scott, who is here, who made this possible. So thank Thank you, Brunel. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you, Frank.
And I would encourage everybody to stick around or come back at 1 o'clock and see this lecture with slides. It's pretty amazing, pretty amazing.
In this present day, no matter where we live, all of us are challenged to care for the land upon which we live. Our commitment of time, skills, and resources are crucial in the effort to create beloved community. 50% of our offering this month will support Bear Yuba Land Trust, which exists to conserve and protect the natural, working, and cultural lands in the Bear and Yuba River watersheds and empower a healthy, resilient community through nature access and education. Please see the following slides for more ways to give here and at home. And I'll ask the ushers to come forward. Thank you for your generosity. We dedicate these offerings to the ideal that all may experience the healing power of deep connection to one another and to the land where we live. All right, let's give some thank yous. Thank you to our special guests, Shelly Covert, Jordan Reznick, Frank Lawrence, thank you all. Thank you to Eileen, Burnell, and Anita for reading and their work with the Nisenan Task Force. Our audiovisual team, Andy Dooley Miller in Cyprus, as always. Eileen for also commandeering the chat. Shanti for this beautiful arrangement up here. I wanted to thank Carl and Katz for, and Lori was greeting this morning. And I wanted to thank Carol Grant being here with the lay pastoral care. I wanted to thank Lindsay and Corey upstairs with the kids. And I wanted to thank Michael, Beth, Rain, Martha, and all the soup bringers for the food. So there's soup, there's a lunch happening right after this and for the 1 o'clock. And so mark your calendars. We've got things coming up. The Women's Circle Gathering tomorrow at 6. You can sing in the choir. We rehearse Wednesdays at 6:30. There's a drawing with Jenny this Friday at 1 o'clock. And the Building and Grounds Work Party. The next one is Saturday, October 19th. That's next Saturday. And stay tuned for a special fundraising concert. Me and my twin brother, piano player, are going to be playing classical music, jazz, everything. You're gonna know everything about us after that. But that's going to happen here November 2nd. And today is a special presentation by Jordan Reznick at 1 o'clock. So stay for the lunch. And you can learn more by going to our website, uugrassvalley.org.
Thank you, Randy, for being worship associate. What a gift. Thanks for the generous sharing of who you are. That's no small thing, I think, to be in front of people and share who you are. So much appreciated. I want to also reiterate the thanks to Brunel. Several of us experienced Jordan's presentation here a year or so ago and see the world differently because of it. And when we were saying, what do we want to do this year for this service? That came up and we said, oh, how could we make that happen? And Brunel said immediately, I'll help cover a bunch of the costs. So it's really generous and a beautiful gift. So thank you. And this is this congregation is a member of the Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity program, right? Which says we're on Nisenan land and we are going to acknowledge that in all the ways we can. But here's this small way where we build into our budget a little piece of money to go to that as part of who we are, something that's built in. So we have our usual giant check to give you. And the photo op.
I'm still crying. Hang on a minute. Jeez Louise.
And one of the reasons we do this in this very visual way is so that other congregations, other institutions think, oh, they're doing it. Maybe we should be doing that too. This is why we put it out there, so that other people say, oh, maybe we ought to do that as well. So the actual check that you can cash will come to your office. But here in the meantime, so thank you for all the work. For our closing song, the song that begins, "We would be one," and this is the goal. I invite us to rise in body or in spirit and to sing together this hope, this desire. Anyway. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one for each other. We're gonna go back. Let's go back. The words matter, so we'd like you to be able to sing them. So we're gonna back up. There you go. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, another world like we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which finds our hearts and puts us on our way. We would be one ourselves to greater service with love and justice trying to make us free. We have gathered here to remember that this is our home, but not just ours. This land we live on, this water we drink, this air we breathe, these old mountains that hold us steady to our ground, these forests that give us their healing green, these flowers that give us their beauty and fragrance, these fields that give us our daily bread, these stars that show us our place, the wilderness and the tame backyards, all of it our home. We remember the ancestors who have lived on this land and who have shaped it, the Nisenan, the settlers, the mountaineers, the farmers, the hunters, the immigrants, the artists, the families, the explorers, the business people, the engineers, the builders, the scientists, the teachers, the workers, the leaders, the academics. We inherit their choices. We inherit their choices. We honor the people, the animals, and the creatures that have made their home in this land, the ones here now and the ones that used to be here. We envision the future generations who will live on this land and let their voices fill our hearts. We have gathered here to remember this is our home and not just ours. May we remember and live what we know. May we remember and live what we know. So may we be. And as this reminder, as we send each other on our way, whether it's to soup lunch or out into the world, we share these good words with each other, this community benediction. Together, though we're going to extinguish the chalice, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. See you for soup and Jordan's presentation, and otherwise see you next week where Jenny Dewey shares her sermon school sermon about spirituality. We'll see you soon.